Okay, welcome back, or welcome to Ted and Yogi's Pac-12 adventure alongside Michael Molinari. It is the final week of the regular season. It's Thanksgiving, fellas. I'm thankful for you, thankful for us. I'm thankful for your life. How we doing?
Yogi, did you see what we just saw there? Anybody who's watching us, did you see Michael with a little royal wave? That was awesome. What a way to what? How could I be anything? How could anything give us more thanks than that? Michael Molinari doing the very English royal wave. Like, yeah,
I assume no one knows who the hell I am. They know you two, so I let people know who the hell is this Molinari guy when Yogi says my name.
I like it. The royal wave. Oh, well, somebody going down in royalty is Kyle Whittingham, all-time leader in wins at the University of Utah. If anybody watched the CFP ranking show last night, there were four voices on that show. Three of them used the word smashed when they described Utah and Oregon last week. And it was a beatdown, right? Utah wins at home, huge win. Kyle, him and Jonathan Smith, to me, fellas, are, kind of the last two here for Coach of the Year in our league. Yeah. I'll be honest, I obviously didn't see that. I thought Oregon would be able to win and meet the moment on the road like they had at Ohio State. What did you think? Like, we were calling a game in real time, but when you went back and looked at that, I think that's the storyline. They win the South. They're on their way to Vegas for the Pac-12 title. I think that's where we're going to kick off today's dialogue.
Well, I'll jump in real quick because, as you said, we were all working, all of us. So I watched the game back on Sunday. Simple. I mean, we saw, as I borrow my old partner's phrase, we saw a supreme scientific whooping in the big game. I saw another one in Salt Lake City. That's what that was. That was just Utah just absolutely crushing Oregon in the line of scrimmage. I feel like we've said this about Oregon teams in the past, and this year does not relate to 4 years ago, I know, but I feel like the theme of this has been when Oregon needs to run and when Oregon needs to stop the run against the top teams. Can they do that? And they sure could not do that. That was vintage Utah football that we've seen. And here they are standing at the end of the year, to me, with two things. One is they're the best team in the conference. Still have to win Colorado and then the champ game to fulfill their biggest goal of Rose Bowl. And two is, I feel for them because there's going to be a what if in the back of their mind. What if Rising had been our guy from week one? And that's part of sport. I know, but I can't avoid thinking about it.
Well, I think you win, you dominate the line of scrimmage. 99% of the time, you're going to win the game. And from the beginning to the end, there was no doubt which of those teams dominated the line of scrimmage. And I think the other what if for that Utah team was the game up in Corvallis that we did. I mean, they had that game won, and Oregon State just took it from them. So those would be the what ifs for that season. But I think without question, there's going to be more wows from the Utah people when they remember this season than what ifs.
Amen. Yeah, I think if you watch them week one, nobody, even our friends over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook, which is the presenting sponsor of this show, no one would have predicted that Utah could do what they've done since Cam Rising became the starter. I want to give you a list of some of the things that they've done. 7-1, of course, since he became the starting quarterback. The lone loss is the one that Ted referenced. They've averaged 38 points per game, which is tied for 11th best in the country, right? They've ran the ball for almost 240 yards per game, 9th best in the country. On third down, almost 60%, 2nd best in America. And defensively, 29 sacks, which is tied for 4th. And we saw the Oregon State game, and I still think to this day, the turning point in their season was that game because they got owned at the line of scrimmage in the game that we saw. And since then, they have risen up on both fronts with shuffling on the O-line, the defensive front led by the vets with Mika Tafua, and then the young guys, Van Fillinger and company. I look at this team, not only the favorite to win the league after what they did against Oregon. Again, go back to when Sam Darnold became the starting quarterback at SC. They beat Penn State in the Rose Bowl. They finished number 3 in the country. So you look at the rankings last night where Utah was, not even in the top 15. for everybody, if they're frustrated where they are, taking down the number 3 team in America, Utah fans, you'll be fine. You go win the next 3 games against a possible Michigan team, right? If Michigan loses, we'll see it. The Rose Bowl is all about rankings, and the CFP, they get to choose the higher ranked team. So who knows if it'll be the team that wins from the other side of the Big Ten, or if it'll be the loser of Ohio State, Michigan. You go win that game, you're going to position yourself really well for next year.
I always laugh. The only time the rankings really matter is at the end of the year. So as you said, don't panic right now. Just take care of business. And it's going to be one of the greatest seasons in Utah history if they take care of business.
Yeah. And I do think, where I come down on this kind of stuff, but I'm just looking, Utah was the 3rd highest ranked 3-loss team. And I was wondering if they would be second. I knew Texas A&M would be ranked higher. A&M has a win over Alabama. And that's a great win. So they're higher ranked 3-loss team. Wisconsin's the one that surprised me. And I think, again, it just speaks to where the Pac-12 sits bluntly in the national scope. I'm looking, Utah wins that game in a decisive manner. They go up 4. Oregon drops 8. Okay. That gives you a sense. Actions, again, speak to where the Pac-12 in that room, which there are some Pac-12 people in that room, I understand, but the overall perception of the conference.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's I went through that last night too as I was watching it. Like, okay, why are teams ranked higher than them? And I went back to my old trusty college football playoff handbook, and I know you guys got a lot going on, but next August, I'm going to urge you, and I hope Jim Thornby's listening, you two got to go do the mock CFP exercise. Yeah. It is awesome. And the way they vote is they vote in clusters of 3 teams. So they vote in these clusters of teams, and then they say, all right, well, who from, like, if you go 1 through 3, all right, should Cincy at 4 jump in? And then they vote on that, and they talk about that, and that's how they work their way all the way down the top 25. I got to imagine in the cluster of where Utah is, there was a lot of dialogue. And again, to Michael's point, they win. If they continue to win, if they win the Pac-12 title, they'll head in the final weekend, likely in the top 10, and then we'll see what happens in the Rose Bowl. But I want to throw this discussion out for us. We've been around this league for a long time. Like, Kyle Whittingham, let's just talk about it, right? Like, I think he gets a lot of – it's easy to, like, say Kyle Whittingham's a great coach. But I wonder if push came to shove, like, if he really gets the just due that he deserves. You think about him coming in. Ted, didn't you call USC Utah like year 1 against Lane? Didn't you guys have that game? Like the bad spot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michael was there with us. Yeah, that was it was Utah's first game in the Pac at the Coliseum.
Like, what do you remember about that game? Because they should have won the ball game, other than, of course, the bad spot. But you're thinking this team comes out of this conference.
I'm going to tell you because Michael and I were together. We back in the Versus, dear to my heart, era. We did some Utah games together when Utah was in the Mountain West. And I'm going to tell you, I remember my first few times I saw Utah play. My first thought, Kyle Whittingham played at BYU and he's coaching at Utah. How does that happen? I mean, seriously, knowing the passionate rivalry. I mean, as we all, Yogi, you were part of it. Could you imagine USC hiring a UCLA guy to be their head coach? It ain't going to happen. Well, this is what happened in Utah. And Kyle Whittingham now, 16 years later, you stand up and say, the guy's been brilliant. He's been brilliant. There's buzz going around. Is he about ready to say that's enough at the end of the year? He's in his early 60s. If they get to the Rose Bowl, that's clearly the grail for Utah football fans. You know, since they've been in the league, they haven't been to a Rose Bowl. And the other thing that they've done that to me will be something I want to talk about, maybe not as much today as next week, ensuing weeks. It hit me again watching our Cal Stanford game Saturday. Michael, watch Yogi have a slight stroke when I say this. Recruiting. I mean, Utah recruits. Kyle Whittingham and his staff recruit players to Utah. They reload. And that's something I think our league right now, conference together, short of. We saw a program Saturday in our game that we can talk about that right now needs a serious recruiting boost. a program that's been really good and now needs it. And I'm saying Utah, I've never said that about Utah. The 10 years they've been in this conference, I've never once said, man, they've got to go out and get better players.
Especially on both sides of the line.
Yeah, exactly.
They've been phenomenal for, as long as Kyle Whittingham's been there. I got one note about that game, because what I'll never forget is block punt. Block field goal attempt. SC runs it back. That year, they had the point of emphasis celebration before you got to the end zone would take the points off the board. Yeah. So they block the field goal, run it back. I'll swear for the rest of my career, there was not one official who ever raised their hands above their head to signal touchdown, because the flags were thrown before they reached the end zone. So no score, penalty, game over. So the line in Vegas, somebody won due to that score. An hour later, they looked through the film because SC was looking for style points for later on. They gave him the touchdown. Then the official score was SC had 6 more points, which threw the line the other way. So if you held on to your ticket, you would have won. So everybody won it on that day on that bet. So that's what I remember about that game.
I wish I could have channeled my inner Al Michaels on that one. Can you imagine that?
That would have, I mean, what would Scott Van Pelt have done with that? Is forever. Thankfully, he wasn't around then.
I'm sorry, I'm going to throw in one more thing, because Yogi, you clearly picked a scab here for me with Utah, because it's a great call on your part. I was around for a decade around Sunday football every week, and I know how highly the pros regarded the Utah program. And that's another one. And there are certain programs around the country. Wisconsin's another one. Iowa's another one. Yogi, your alma mater, has been one. Pitt, where the way the game is played, the way it's coached / taught, appeals to the pros. They know they get a better pro ready or closer to pro ready player coming out of that program. And look at I'm the first one, is at the Power 5 level. Every school should be that way. Every kid plays Power 5 football, has got in the back of their mind, they're dreaming of getting an NFL shot. So my point is, Whittingham has done that at Utah. And just look at the number of people that have been drafted. Watch football on Sundays and look at the number of kids running around on the field that played at Utah. And that's another, to me, a huge compliment and proof of what we're talking about, the validity of what he's done there.
Yeah. Hey, Yogi, how important to a recruit is NFL success, getting guys to NFL success? I assume that's besides what the uniforms look like, because I've been told by coaches, that's number one, but where on the top, 3 or 4 things we get guys to the pros?
It's right below that. Yeah, it's paramount. And I think what you've seen them do, it began with Jalen Johnson. He was their first huge recruit. Huge. They beat SC on him at the corner, now starting for the Bears. And then who'd they flip from Ohio State? Clark Phillips 2 years ago, right? And now that they've got Cam Rising, right, who was a huge recruit out of high school, went to Texas, transferred. The quarterback thing has always kind of been the question. And they got a guy now. And they're going to recruit the next guy, because Cam Rising, we'll talk about at the end of the show. We're going to kind of predict a little bit, what do we think about our player of the year? Cam Rising is square in the dialogue for offensive player of the year. And it'll be fun to see how that shakes out. I want to say one note on Kyle, because there's rumors of, does he shut it down? There's rumors in LA of does he take SC, right? There's a lot of rumors around Kyle Whittingham, which I know Utah fans, sometimes it makes you nervous. You should like it. That means like you're having a lot of success. The one thing we know about Kyle is that, man, and I just think this because we have so many openings right now as head coaches, he's got a way about him. And Ted, you used the word identity so well on our broadcasts. They've never wavered from that.
That's right.
They've never wavered from that. They never went for the quick fix with JCs. Now, he's brought some JCs in. They never went for the quick fix in the portal. They've brought transfers in, but he's vetted every one of them. Darren Carrington, the first one that comes to mind after he left the Oregon program. I mean, he's got a way about him that I think the players just fall in love with who he is and how he holds them accountable. And I believe this. I'm the young dad of the trio here, but accountability, maybe young kids don't like it, but you appreciate it as you get older. And I think this is a team, when you watch them, they've always been accountable. They've always had a discipline to them. They've had a toughness, a resiliency, and that's from him. That's solely from him. And I would love to see them take a run this year.
By the way, I'm teeing up Yogi because you said something so perfect. Now, I have asked as a Christmas gift this year, I want a T-shirt from say I'm a young granddad. Okay, I hope you do. Anyway, something else about the Utah program, because since we're in a love fest here, but it's a deserved love fest. Utah and what Kyle Whittingham and his team have done at Utah is build a very comfortable place for players from Polynesian backgrounds. And hello, America, this is where a lot of football players are now coming from, particularly in the western part of the country. We know this. We see it all the time. Big-bodied young men, many of them have rugby backgrounds in their families, so contact is not something they shy away from. And I went through this. I worked at Stanford for 13 years. Stanford, because of its academic prowess, has always been known as a very comfortable place for outstanding Nigerian student / athletes to come go to school. For years, Stanford has been known as that. It becomes something that gets passed down through the grapevine. Hey, you want to be comfortable, you want to be around some people you can relate to, and a place where you'll be accepted. You go to Stanford. Well, the same at Utah. And you see what that means in football. The number of brilliant and largely linemen, although there are other positions, but largely linemen. And that's a great credit. It's clearly something that in the football recruiting world, people from families of very Polynesian backgrounds know, hey, it's a good place to go. It's a good place to go. My kid's going to be good there, going to play football there and succeed there. And that's another great, as we watch high school football change dramatically in our country. I live in a place in the Bay Area where it's changed dramatically in terms of who's playing and how many people are playing. That to me is valuable. And that's a big tip to Utah.
All right, Utah, 19th in the recency of people. They play Colorado, who will be out. Brennan Rice, Levante Chenault has entered the portal. We'll see about Nate Landman, Guy Thomas. He's a game-time decision as well. I think we'd assume that Utah finishes the season with a win. All right, before we move on to the next topic, let me tell you a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with BetRivers yet, now is the time. They're offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit, but what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. They got a new Rush Pay instant approval element, so withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable than ever before. With football season kicking off, get in on the action. With football season almost ending, get in on the action. Go to betrivers.com today or download the BetRivers iOS app. Of course, be 21 years or older. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, formerly known as the Civil War. Oregon bounce back opportunity. Oregon State undefeated at home. Jonathan Smith, the aforementioned, in our eyes, finalist for Coach of the Year. In Autzen, we've seen this go both ways. Of course, in the actual game, but also, how do you feel about hangovers? Right? Like, Oregon just had their national championship title popped. It ain't happening, right? Unless some crazy things happen over the next 2 weeks. But even then, it's going to be hard, right? So, what do you think about this game for the Ducks to start?
Michael, you're our Shelby Foote, so I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I think it's amazing how quickly the narratives changed before the Utah game. It looked like Oregon would have much more on the line this week. Now it feels like Oregon State is the team that has much more on the line. They get a win. They have a chance to win the North, and all of a sudden just becomes, I just think Oregon State in a way has more to play for. And I think I'll use a financial term. You're not going to see a bounce back from Utah, or excuse me, a bounce back from Oregon. I think you're going to see a dead cat bounce. I think they're going to play well early and then fade.
Okay.
When Molinari starts dropping financial terms in there, I keep waiting for Tesla to roll in there.
Oh, that is a dead cat waiting to happen. That's my opinion on that. We'll see.
Well, I mean, look, if there, my first reaction, Yog, to that is if you have a hangover in a rivalry game, you've got bigger problems. I mean, that should cure everything right there. But I mean, the astounding thing of all this is Washington State. And I don't understand the tiebreak stuff, but somehow Washington State could get through this. They lost to Oregon head to head, but somehow they get in. And if the right two combinations happen, the Cougs go to the champ. I mean, that's crazy. And, you know, for all of the incredible amount of emotional support that's been thrown Utah's way for what they've dealt with the loss of two players in the last year, you know, there has been nothing, and no one's equating this stuff at Washington State. It's been a different disruption, but still a pretty massive one in the football sense. If they come out and get to a championship game, that's amazing. And I'll stand up and say, again, I love when people prove me wrong. Molinari tells me it happens regularly, but Jaden Delore has proved me wrong. That's the most unheralded player in our league this year, without question. Every week, what that kid has done to compete and put his team in this position, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think it's since 2012, the Cougs have not won in the Apple Cup. And that's what I think is so fun about this weekend. Much like last weekend, right? Utah beats Oregon. So ASU knows that they don't have a chance to win the South. What do we see in Arizona State, Oregon State? I think it factors a little bit into your brain. You're like, all right, we can't win the title. Right? Here we go. Apple Cup's on a Friday. If Washington State wins, for the Beavs, there's even more juice in this ball game. And can you imagine, like, can you imagine? Either way, right? And of course, if UW wins, then Oregon State is like, we have a real chance, like a legit chance to go to the Pac-12 championship. So you're right, Ted. 3 teams in the mix right now.
Here's the other thing I just say, guys, being the person that's been in this league for 90 years, the Rose Bowl is still the greatest single day of college athletics I've ever experienced in my life. Was calling a Rose Bowl game for one of the schools that was playing. It's phenomenal. And we just saw Cal on Saturday. I'm telling you, you have no idea how many Cal alums have passed and will not live again until Cal hasn't played in the Rose Bowl since 1959. Okay. I mean, for one of the charter schools in the Pac, that's the Chicago Cubs of the Pac. Arizona has never gone to the Rose Bowl game. They didn't get in the league until the 70s. So they're in second place in that regard. But my point is, it means everything. And so for Oregon, playing in the Rose Bowl game better mean everything. Yes, their CFP shot is gone. That's okay. It's still the Rose Bowl. It's awesome. And if Oregon treats it with anything less than that, the Beavers and the Cougs fans will trample over them, right? Because you know what it would mean to both of those schools. You know what it would mean.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. All right, Michael, we spent a little time with Jake Dickert. If they win, what do you think? I mean, he's interviewing on the job.
I think I know there's this pressure from the check writers to go get a name, but you have whether he wins or not, I think he's proven he can lead this team. And, you know, the next question is, can he recruit, which hopefully we'll have the chance to find out, but he can lead this team. And who do you have coming in? I always find it interesting. Fire the coach. Well, how about you have a plan to replace the coach before you fire the coach? And as we all know, getting somebody to come up to coach in Pullman's not the same as getting someone to come coach in LA. So I think if you've got somebody that's successful, that's doing a good job, that's providing excellent leadership for your team, you got to think twice about just going and trying to find a name, especially if you don't have someone committed. I think the grass is always greener, and hopefully I'm sure Pat Chun and his group will make a smart and intelligent decision, but there's a great option there right now.
Here's something I'll throw out about that, because Michael, you just made, can I just say this? You know how Thanksgiving makes us all feel better? Michael, that was a great point you made. Man.
Once in a while.
Yeah. No, seriously, but it's an excellent point. And here's 2 words I'll throw out about that. Kyle Smith. Pat Chun, hired Kyle Smith as his men's basketball coach a couple of years back. Great hire. Unique person, unique methodology, which is Pullman. Guess what? It's unique. It demands that. And that was now I don't know if Kyle Smith's ever going to win the Pac-12 championship there. That's not my point. He was a terrific hire for Washington State. So does Jake Dickert fit into that category of uniqueness? And obviously he has a head start on everybody in the process. Or does Pat Chun have a Kyle Smith that he's identified outside? That would be my point. Because I just think that job demands, again, look, Leach is a lot of things. Leach was good for Washington State because he was unique. That was the part that made it work for him there. And and I'm not saying you hire a Leach clone. That's not my point, but somebody that is willing to operate in a different manner, because you're not going to, as we all know, you can't recruit against Oregon and USC in Pullman. It never has and never will happen. So you have to find a different way to do it.
Yeah, I think the uniqueness in my eyes, to your point, Ted, doesn't have to be like the last two head coaches there, because their uniqueness was also personality traits, let alone scheme. Yeah. I think the uniqueness is, I want to be in Pullman, versus I'm a rock star rising coach. I'll be there for 3 and I'm out. Mm-hmm. So I that's where I think it fits for Jake Dickert. He loves it there. We talked to him last week in advance of their game against Arizona. It'll be fun. There's a lot of intrigue in that ball game. And then you look at the scheme, and it's this passing offense against the secondary that's really good. Yeah. So can't wait to watch that. All right, real quick, I think we should hit on Justin Wilcox, Chip Kelly, because that game is like under the radar best game in the league this week. Schematically, defensive minded J-Dub, of course, saw what Chip did against UCLA or USC with Dorian going absolutely crazy in that one. And there's a lot of rumors, right, around Justin and, does he take another job, right? The LA Times is calling for Chip Kelly to be done. Like, there's a lot of stuff at stake in this game at night on Saturday. I guess, I don't know, what did you think going into Saturday, this past Saturday? What did you think coming out of it about both of these teams? Because they both had offensive explosions.
Cal looked dominant in our game. I don't know how much of that was Cal and how much of that was Stanford's defense. Hard to say. But, they absolutely dominated that game. I think it was a historic domination as far as offensive production. They look very sharp. Their defense looked good. I think, like you said, I think the UCLA Cal game is maybe the most interesting game on the plate. You never would have thought that. And will both or either of those coaches that are coaching that game be back in those positions next year? I think that adds a lot of intrigue to the game. If I had to pick it, I think Cal. I like Cal. I like Cal. What was the number? They hadn't beaten all the California schools since 1958. So, remember, Cal plays the following week too, the makeup SC game. So I don't know. I think I like Cal in that one for sure.
Well, yeah, we'll try to throw all these things together into the pot here, Yog. UCLA, if they win 8-4, I don't know how you dismiss a coach at 8-4. I just don't understand that. To me, that would indicate unrealistic expectations of your football program, given UCLA's history. And I'm not suggesting you settle, but if 8-4 is ramping up, I don't understand it. I mean, clearly somebody has gotten to the LA Times because they decided weeks ago, no matter what, UCLA can win every game by 70 points. They've already made up their minds, and that's a hard thing to overcome in the perception battle. I understand, but if UCLA wins 8 and goes 8-4, I don't know how you make a change. And the other factor being the market right now is pretty busy. And now the market may be busy again every year. This may be the first of a precursor that schools are going to change more frequently. I don't know that, but I know this year you're going to go out in a crowded marketplace to find a coach. And I say this, I watched a lot of the UCLA USC tape, and I was watching sideline. You watch how the players on that team react with Chip. It seems like he has them. And that's something I watch a lot, having been around and watched a lot of coaches get let go. The guys on that team seem like they're with him. big thing. By the way, I love the way Dorian, to me, I'm watching this tape and I'm just watching this and I'm thinking Chip Kelly was having Dorian Thompson-Robinson show the Sunday boys, I could play from the pocket. Now, USC's defensive effort was not very good, not masking that at all, but still, it wasn't DTR running all over the place and using his legs as we know he can do. This was DTR throwing from the pocket and launching and throwing and crushing a team. I watched this, and that's what I was thinking. I was thinking there's a little bit of a, answer some questions here, DTR. It's your day. All right. So now to Cal quickly. I thought the Cal, as Michael said, the Cal win we all saw it. It was phenomenal. What this means for Justin Wilcox and Berkeley going forward, who knows? I'm going to get back to my point. I was stunned at Stanford, being a major fan of David Shaw and what his staff and what they've accomplished, unprecedented in the history of Stanford football, what they've done. I walk away going, their talent level needs help. That's the first time in years I've said that. And that at Stanford is a challenge. It has been forever, recruiting at a private school with a high academic bar. That's a challenge. It's nothing new, but that's something to me, the watch their defense play the way it did Saturday. They need a good recruiting year. Let's put it that way. And I'll finish this up. I was with, because I live in the Bay Area, and I was around a bunch of Cal alums, I think pretty good Cal alums Sunday. And a couple of them came up to me and said two things. One is, man, you didn't sound like a Stanford homer, which I try to keep reminding them. I worked for Cal at one point too, but that's a long thing. And the other thing they said is, your partner Yogi is good. I'm not kidding. That's what they said. And I said, well, he's a hell of a producer. I got to be honest with you.
I agree.
I don't know. Did they comment on the Gadsby crowd? Because that was my favorite moment of that game. 93-year-old Ed Archer, we found out later, by the way.
Yeah, you should. If somebody told us that was, I wish we had known that, because I didn't know if they were, late Halloween costuming or if that was legit.
He's Google him, Ed Archer. He's in the Bay Area. There's a great article on him as a 93-year-old who races Model Ts at Laguna Seca. It's a fascinating article. He's like a big car guy and into authentic clothes, as you can see. So
yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Well, I did, but they did tell me, but they did say, Yogi, the Cal fans love you. So I'm just that was honest to God truth, and I was really happy to hear that.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, real quick, I'll button up with some of those things. I think for UCLA, I'm with you. When Chip took it over from Jim Mora, I get the success that Jim had, but Chip also had a program with players that were fractured, right? Whether they didn't want to be there, they thought they should be there, they had medical issues. They had 57 scholarship players available when they beat USC in year one. And I said this on Saturday night on the Pac-12 networks. When you go to a game, you drive with 4 buses. The first year when they beat SC, they had 2 buses because that's the amount of players they had. Now they have 4 buses. They have the players, and they have buy-in, and they finally, in my opinion, have a really clear path towards success. And Ted, you're right. 8 wins, 9 wins. Come on, man. Like, you got to feel good about the rebuild, or do you just want to start over? Like, I just think that where they're at is a really healthy place. I think even the players would say Chip's evolved too. They've gotten to know him in a different level than they did when he came in there, and he's having a great time. I think when we look at Cal, I think that they got a chance to win this game because they don't let people run the ball. They had the least amount of 10-plus yard runs in this game. So Dorian's going to have to play from the pocket and deal in this game for UCLA to win. He can do it. I like just the way that Chase Garbers in this offense has been playing. It's going to be a fun one to watch.
I'll say this real quickly. I'm sorry. Chase Garbers will never have to ask for a job in Berkeley. Yeah. That's another thing I was confirmed over the weekend. 2 big game wins at Stanford. He's locked.
Yeah, he's locked. SC job, UW job, Wazoo job. Stay tuned to your alerts on your phones over the next 10 days or so. And all the names are in play, whether it's Dave Aranda, Dan Quinn, Brent Brennan, Justin Wilcox, Matt Campbell, Jay Norvell, for all these jobs, right? Everybody's interviewing the same amount of people.
One name's off the board, right?
Go ahead.
James Franklin.
Yeah, James Franklin. Yeah, jeez, good for him.
10-year
got paid.
10-year contract. I was like, does that say 10? That's it.
And you know what's crazy to all the fans listening? I think we need to recognize the reality we're in, where if a coach is there for 5 or more years, you're lucky. Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, look at Florida and UCLA for a second. Chip turned down Florida to take UCLA. Dan Mullen's out, right? Like, just so we're clear on like what is reality in college football, like
And,
the long term.
and let me chime in here, as you know, I'm want to do, but that goes to your Pullman point. See, I'm different because and again, I worked at Stanford a long time, where Stanford had a hard time keeping coaches for a long period of time, and I said it's okay if they're coming to hire your coaches. That means your program's in a good place. And to me, that would be one of the things I would be looking at as a head coach, assessing my own staff. Are people coming to hire my assistant coaches? They better. And if they're not, then that's something I'd have to look at also. So my point back to Washington State is, look, Washington State, Tony Bennett was a phenomenal basketball coach at Washington State. He actually stayed 1 year longer than most people thought he would, but eventually you knew he was going to go to another job. That's okay. I don't think Washington State would trade that for anything. Those years were so good. And so to me, going back to hire a coach, I want to hire a guy who's on the way up. And if he gives me 4 or 5 really good years, then and then someone plucks him, that makes my job look pretty good. So I may be warped in the way I look at it, but that is honestly, from all my experience, the way I look at that.
Amen, man. Amen. Real quick, guys, we've got the Territorial Cup. I referenced Player of the Year on offense earlier. Cam Rising has a chance. Rashad White is probably in the dialogue. Tavion Thomas is in the dialogue. What do you think about this game? What are you most anticipating in this ball game with Jed Fish against Herm Edwards in battled program? Both teams have struggled this season, as we know, but this rivalry is unique in its own right.
I want to see how Arizona players come out and respond to last year's beatdown. Yeah. They got to drive by a billboard that has the score. I mean, come on. So I just think the first couple of series, I think you're going to know, is this going to be a game or is this going to be another ASU beatdown? That's what I think. I think Arizona, how do they respond those first couple of series? And I think they play with the fire that it's hard to believe they won't. This could actually come down to a pretty competitive game. I just think there's a lot of personal pride at stake for the Arizona team after last year. And, I think they're going to stop and look at the billboard is what I hear. So
you must have read the Arizona press release. Were you used? So we're in a slogan. Everybody has to have a slogan era. I get that. So Arizona's press release this week of football, it says it's personal on every page.
Yep.
So I'm going to channel, because my good friend, he's passed on, but I knew him years ago, Mean Gene Okerlund. I could just hear him going right now. Saturday afternoon in Tempe, everybody in Tucson says it's personal. And I could just hear him saying that. So I hope if Arizona does take it personally, what happened to them last year, even though Jed Fish and his staff were not a part of this, a lot of the players were, support staff was, students, everybody was part of that. If they take it personal, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun because we know Arizona State's a heavy favorite. Everybody sees that. ASU can't play for the conference championship game any longer. They're going to be in a decent bowl game. How important is that to them? Those are the questions we don't know the answers to until Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. My gut says we're going to have a great game. There's a lot of scheme and stuff, who's playing, who's not, all those things, but I can't wait to watch Jaden Daniels. Is it his final game, right? What's going to go on the other side of the ball? Will Plummer, he's one of the tougher guys we've seen this year, play the position. It's gonna be a blast. All right, before we get to our humanity moment of the week, a quick message from our sponsors over at BetterHelp. Is there something that's preventing you from achieving your goals or interfering with your happiness? If there is, I want to let you know about BetterHelp. It's professional help done securely online. Please check out betterhelp.com/TBS. BetterHelp will assess your individual needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist to allow you to connect in a safe and private online environment. It's so convenient you can start communication in less than 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's an avenue to accessing professional therapy without having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. BetterHelp has licensed professionals who specialize in depression, stress, anxiety, as well as relationship and grief counseling. You can message your counselor at any time and get timely, thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. Find the particular expertise you need online. Do not limit yourself to the counselors located near you, and do it in a manner that is more affordable than traditional offline counseling. Financial aid is also available. So many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. So if you want to start helping your life and be happier if you need it, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/yogi. Join over the 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's betterhelp, HELP.com/yogi today. And I want to say, Mike, before I pass it to you, I just interviewed Joey Harrington for the It Factory podcast, and we went really deep on mental health and what he went through in his career. It'll come out on signing day week because I think it's really critical that week to talk to this generation of athletes who are signing. But it's amazing. Make sure you subscribe and check that out as well. So, Michael, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Athletes like Joey and Kevin Love are coming out and trying to say that this is not something to be ashamed of. This is something that's normal. And I think it's great. Those guys have the courage, and I'm using courage in a word when I actually mean it, not courage of throwing a deep ball for a touchdown. It's courageous of what they're doing to share their mental health struggles with everybody else. So thank you guys for that. Thanksgiving, one of my favorite definitions, the celebration of overconsumption without concern for the consequences. What could be more American than that, by the way? But it's not just that. It's a time to have gratitude and appreciation. And I think those two thoughts and emotions are kind of the cornerstone of humanity. So I thought it was a good time to talk about what I'm thankful for. Number one, tomorrow, everybody in this country is going to have the opportunity to get together with family again. And it's been far too long. I've even heard people say they're excited to go see their in-laws. So that tells you it's been far too long. And worldwide, because everybody doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving, but the holidays coming up next month, the entire world's going to get a chance to get back and make those vital connections. And I think everyone on this planet should be thankful for that. And I am too. On a personal note, my teenage daughters have just been through this pandemic, and this generation is really going to be affected by this. And the strength and courage they've shown has been inspirational. And it's really been, their strength and determination is admirable. And my wife too, for her support of them through this. So for all the teenagers, moms, and parents out there, I thank you for getting through this. And then what am I thankful more on a professional level? I looked it up. 28 years I've been able to say my job is to cover sports. My job is to cover sports. So I'm incredibly thankful for that. And I guess as we make the turn from football to basketball to sad time, as our group kind of has the last one this week. But I personally am thankful that I get to go from the energy, enthusiasm of Yogi Roth to the energy, enthusiasm of one William Walton. And I go from how great is ball to thank you for your life. Mm-hmm. And Ted, what could be better than that?
Amen. Amen. Michael, that's so well said. And I'm going to resist the temptation, because you open the door when Molinari and overconsumption get used in the same sentence. But it's Thanksgiving week. And that's what I think. And we have our last game coming up, depending on when people are listening. Our last game is Saturday, Arizona State. And we have a fabulous crew, from Yogi through Michael, through Scott Barkey, our director, all the way through Sam Paul, everybody. We have a fabulous crew, and it makes football season fun. And the games are a luck of the draw each week. We've had better luck this year than most. We've had better games this year from our conference schools than many other years. That's good luck for us. I'm happy about that. And exactly, that's what we're thankful for. And you know what? In-laws, kids, I'm going to say this. Everybody, because last year's Thanksgiving was altered. I know our families talked about this, whether you're vaxxed / boosted or not. You know what? If you're getting together with a big group, it's not a bad idea. Go get some rapid tests in the morning. And we've talked about this within our family too, just to put everybody's mind at ease for Thanksgiving Day. Not a bad idea.
Amen, man. Humanity moment. It gets me every time. I can't wait for Hayden to put just one episode of those back to back, man.
I can wait.
We're gonna get that. That's
hopefully some heavy editing from Hayden before we do that.
So what is the Yogi Amy Thanksgiving table going to look like?
Well, it's going to be a lot of in-laws, right? To Michael's point, and looking forward to it.
He's smiling, Michael. Look at him. He's smiling.
Yep. We're going to have a nice little combination. I've been challenged, and I'm sure some of you have dealt with this. I'm going to make a pumpkin pie from the pumpkin on our front porch. Ooh. But my wife also bought a backup in case I screw it up. So my challenge today, after our coach's call with Arizona, is to crush the pumpkin pie with the family. You guys will get a report because we will be taking the family to Tempe. All of us, baby included, will be at the game.
Nice.
So if I don't have, if I can't find that word on Saturday, help me out. I might be sleep deprived. I don't know what the hotel's going to be like on Friday night. We'll see what happens, man.
Let's just make sure the word isn't infamous. No.
But can Mackay track third downs for me? That's what I want you to know.
Yeah, he's a great spotter. He's a great spotter.
Perfect.
All right. Happy
It's going to be great to see your fat Yogi. And Michael, you too. You guys have fabulous families. And Michael, you said it so well, so I'm not stepping on, but enjoy Thanksgiving. Hug everybody, because someday you will be like me, a young grandpa.
No. I love you guys. All
Happy
right.
Thanksgiving to Mary too.
All right. Amen to that. See ya. Peace.